I think that the answer to not working is creativity. And so imagine 8 billion people who get their work done through A.G.I. in a fraction of the time that it used to take them, and now they're able to go out and play. They're able to spend more time with their family. They're able to create art, whatever it is that humans really should be doing. But if all that stuff can be done by a system, then we have a lot of free time and a lot of mobility.
I'm Mark Cook, president of Windfall Partners. We get leaders unstuck and thriving with their teams. After turnarounds as chief executive, the largest ever studies of award-winning leaders, a New York Times bestseller, and 5-star keynotes. I've coached 4,000 client wins at top brands. My Bold Encounters is an advanced system for leading. First, powerful steps on a path forward. Second, problem-solving skills that beat obstacles fast. Now, lead with Bold Encounters today.
Welcome to Bold Encounters. I have with me Jonathan Goodman today. How are you, Jonathan?
I'm doing great. It's great to see you, Mark.
It's good to see you again. I met you at a trade show. I was doing a bunch of small presentations and talking to people and in New York City, and you're from Jersey, right?
Yes, I am. Jersey City, New Jersey.
I've got to say, I stayed across the river this time and didn't stay in Manhattan, and I had a blast. Who knew Hoboken was such a cool place with restaurants and stuff?
It's only 1 mile long, but it has a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, I loved it, actually. The other fun thing that we're going to get to later that made me want to have you on the show is we're talking, two strangers at the show, and I ask you about your career because I'm into people's life's work. I want to know what they're trying to cause as a difference in humanity. And you say, well, I'm just going to show you right now, and you pull out your phone, and we did a demo of AI, and look, I use ChatGPT all the time. I'm calling customer service, sadly, a lot, hearing broken bots. Bots are not my friend. And your phone and its bot was my friend. And it sounded amazingly real. And I don't know how you're beating the big players, but we're going to get to that. And we're going to actually do a little 1 or 2 minute demo and have you share it with the audience. It's really amazing, I think.
Fantastic.
So I want to start at the very beginning because I like to know who I'm talking to. So tell me about your childhood, how you were raised, where you grew up, all that.
So I moved around a lot. My family moved as the economy continued to increase. We kind of moved to better and better locations. I was born in Queens, New York, and then we moved to Westchester. And from Westchester, we moved to Rockland County. And so my high school experience was in Rockland County. And you might know that from the legal issues that the county has presented on the voting machines in Rockland County. It's a big news story here in New York. That court thing is proceeding, so we'll find out if there was any illegalities during the voting session the last time around. But it's a beautiful place to grow up. I had a very nice childhood.
It's no Hoboken, but you know it is. So tell me about your family life and your surroundings, friends, and family and such.
As a child?
Yeah.
You mean?
Yeah.
Like?
Yeah.
Did fairly well in school. I'm dyslexic, so I think we put that under neurodivergent now in today's world, in today's words. But still did very well. I went to an undergraduate, Ringling College of Art and Design, and I had a degree in photography and graphic design. I then started my corporate career and decided to get a Master's of Science from the College of New Rochelle, which is unfortunately no longer around. And then I have my Master's of Business Administration, my MBA, from Fairleigh Dickinson here in New Jersey. Yeah.
Did you have a bunch of brothers and sisters, or no one, or what was your family like?
Yeah, I have 2 brothers.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, hello, brothers, if you're watching.
Yes.
So it's interesting. You say that about dyslexia, or whatever I'm supposed to call it now, and it makes me think of Gladwell's book. I think it was like David and Goliath or something, where he talked about that the big Y in the road, the split paths, and some get to be extremely successful in entrepreneurship, and I guess you're the one that took that path. It was a challenge, but did something that made you different when I ran into the show than most of the people. So tell us a little bit about the dyslexia thing and the challenge there.
Well, I think that, if you look at my life, you see that I always had an interest in producing very creative things, whether it's through graphic design or photography. And that kind of led to me learning HTML at a very, very early age in the pre-dot-coms. And from there, that really allowed me to catapult myself into companies like Micro Warehouse, that at that time was a mail order catalog for computer systems, and then became an online. I built the majority of that website at that time, which was all HTML code. It eventually became dynamic code, but it was very, very hard coding every single page, each individual product and everything like that. And then I was scooped up by a company that would eventually go public during the dot-coms, and that was EarthWeb. And I had great mentors there. That was probably the most exciting period of my career, early career. I made quite a significant amount of money. They went public. That allowed me to buy my townhouse. I was super happy about that, almost 22 years ago. And from there, I went to Suburban Propane and built out their e-commerce system. And then after Suburban Propane, that was when I launched into Halyard Consulting, and it's been 15 years running the business, with the exception of some downturns here and there. But entrepreneurial, it's really quite amazing. I do Ancestry.com, and so I know the history of my family,
Really?
and we've always been entrepreneurs. My grandfather owned a business card company that probably during that time competed against companies like Hallmark. Down the line, we were, tailors and retail and entrepreneurial. It was very interesting to see how it kind of all is, synchronized for what I do and for what my family does, my brothers and everybody else. We're all very, very entrepreneurial, creative people.
Fascinating, for sure. Wow. So, and when I was playing with Legos, you were doing HTML. That's a way to go. Let's back up and let's talk about when you decided to go out on your own. You're still in corporate America, and you decide to go out on your own. That's not just a flippant thing. It takes some time to get through kind of a mental process there. Tell us about that.
It's a very big switch. For anybody who is listening that they're currently in corporate, it's so hard to explain how different life is as an entrepreneur. You are 24/7. There is no time off when you're an entrepreneur. You're working all day, every day. You have breaks. I have family, and we go and do things, but I'm constantly tied to my phone. By the end of the night on Saturday, I still have to respond to people. And so that transition was very, very, very eye-opening. Now, I should preface this by saying that my MBA is actually in entrepreneurial studies. So I did have the degree to kind of understand how to build a business, and I think that was very critical. But I also will admit that my relationship with Suburban Propane ended very beautifully, which you don't really hear that often. I had built the e-commerce system that was netting about $1.5 million by the 5th year, which was not easy because this was the beginning of people understanding that they could buy things things. Amazon really hadn't even created their, ability to send your product to their warehouses. What is that, FBA or something like that, right? So that hadn't been created or anything. And so to be able to go from a negative, and I should point out, so the reason why I was brought into Suburban Propane was because they had acquired a company called Gas Connection out in Seattle that had an attached e-commerce tool that they were, selling things. Now, what happened was they brought me on, and then I flew out to Seattle and met with the people that were building the e-commerce system, and I found out very quickly that they were doing a little bit of a scam where they were taking some things in the store, going back into their offices and actually processing those sales online, saying that they were making money. And so when the acquisition came and all of a sudden there were no sales anymore, I had to understand what was going wrong. And so I had to fix the system, I had to rebuild the e-commerce system, and then actually generate sales. So it wasn't like I came in with any sales. It was actually I believe it was $40,000 negative when I came in. So to turn that around within a 5-year period was, to get to $1.2 million, 1.2, was around there, was quite remarkable for the time. And so
let me ask you something about that. Yeah. So I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. So were they real sales being double counted now in the back office e-commerce? So they weren't just getting a sale and saying, okay, well, let's transact this on our e-commerce platform. They were selling and then reselling on the line online.
No. Oh. They were processing it through the internet only.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't a double sale. There wasn't any issues with the accounting books. It was just that they were taking certain sales and processing them through the internet, their online website, and saying that the business was generating revenue.
The online business. Yeah.
Right.
I see that. Yeah. So not the total, but the online was, hey, we're having a lot of success with this online business, but it was really actual traditional sales. I see.
That's correct.
I
right.
See. Okay.
And so then after 5 years of running it, the Wall Street came back because Suburban's a public company, and they said, we really want you to focus on gas. They're a propane company. So they came back to me and they said, we're going to close down the e-commerce system, and we're going to give you a very nice go-away check. So that was also a very nice experience, and I was very happy with that check. And then that allowed me to really have the foundation of building Halyard.
Wow, good for them. I mean, how many? I've interviewed more than 15,000 people or had discussions about their work. I can count on one hand someone who said, my corporation gave me a wonderful check. It was fair. That's rare. That's terrific.
Yeah. Well, I am.
They're usually fair or justified. I'm not throwing all corporations under the bus. Certainly, I had once in my career separation, and it was fair. It was certainly very fair. But it wasn't glowing like you just made it sound. So that's pretty impressive that they made you feel that way, whatever the number was. Yeah.
I tend to bring a lot of value to any situation that I'm in. So I think they understood that, I really could have gone and worked anywhere, and I had chosen that company because I really felt that I could make a very significant difference and show them, how to build an e-commerce business. So that was really great. They also paid for my MBA, I should say. It was a very good relationship.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And, on the separation, the human element, the conversation, the leadership behavior is a big deal. I mean, they could have given you a big number and acted like they wanted to get rid of you, which happens quite a bit, and you wouldn't be talking the way you do. So congratulations to them for doing all that. That's amazing. Yeah. They really valued you. So, okay. So they sent you away on your ship, and it was kind and gentle and safe. And what happened next?
Well, I already had the skills for the SEO and the website. I had been building websites, for all of these companies previously. So I was very skilled at being able to build a website back then, as well as understanding how to get ranked in Google. Because during that period of time, Google got more and more dominant. Before that, it was web crawler and it was Bing and all these other tools that
Yahoo.
really, Yahoo was a big thing. And so once Google started to dominate, I really focused in on that. And yeah, I was able to gain clients fairly easily. I think one of the things, and we do still do SEO for our clients if they request it. We have the ability to do that. But really, the skills needed at that time were really educational. You really had to constantly be learning at that time how to get ranked well in Google. And it was, I don't promote Halyard as an SEO company anymore because I really feel that there's a significant transition between utilizing Google and utilizing a tool like ChatGPT to get all of your answers. So, as many people who are very focused on their website, they should really be looking at GEO and AEO, which is enhancing your website for the chatbots, for the LLMs. And I don't think a lot of people are doing that, and a lot of people who are doing that are seeing really good successes. But I don't go out there and wave a big flag that says we do SEO. We do, but it's not the primary focus of the business.
Yeah. And I don't know if I've inadvertently had a decent SEO, and I keep wondering if it's because I'm doing all the other things that make sense. And so maybe you're doing some of those other things and you're naturally getting a good SEO because you're doing all the other things that you should, rather than gaming the algorithm.
I mean, we know how to set up the sitemap. We know how to connect it to Google Analytics, do the Google Search Console. We know how to monitor it using all the tools that are out there, SEMrush and everything like that. So we understand. We also understand the client, so we understand the keywords that they're trying to get. But at the end of the day, as many blog posts as you can build. And as many searches as you may be able to be found via keyword, it still really comes down to your area, who your network is, how you're building your business, and that's really the key to the success.
Yeah. Look, this is not a history show, so I shouldn't probably be telling this short anecdote, but I once interviewed the founders and the CEO of Excite, George Bell, and I walked into that office. It was a very nice office, and he was a very well dressed, sharp. He still is very sharp guy, and very impressive experience. And then months later, Google took over the world. That was such a fascinating thing. And I think there's a little bit of that happening to them, as you say. I mean, there's a very narrow thing that you want to even go on Google for now. And just a few months ago, everything was about going on Google and looking it up. It's just such a shocking change. And so, yeah, so you start this company. Back then you're doing SEO. People need SEO because Google did take over the world. And you had a few employees. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we had a sales team and an SEO team and a development team. So we had a lot of, we had a good handful of people that were working for us. And, then, certain things happened and we had to restart the business.
Yeah. All right. So, a lot of us feel like we're deep into our career, and since I know a little bit about your story, I'll set it up a bit. We're deep into our career just a few years ago, and ironically, Rudy Gobert, who was playing in my city at the time, is playing with microphones, and the world shuts down. And for most of us, even that had COVID a couple of times, we just think of COVID as the world shuts down and everyone starts fighting about which side they're on for various issues. But that's not your experience with COVID, is it? Tell us your experience, and I know it's hard and it's not a positive thing, but it ends up better. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so COVID had a major impact on me. I got sick for quite a while, and compounded by the fact that I had Bell's palsy. And Bell's palsy is when you basically lose the nerves on half of your face, and that's what I did. So this half of my face was affected, and it took a very long time to build back both my health from COVID and my face from Bell's palsy. And during that period of time, I had to shut the company down because it was just, I had to focus on my health. There was nothing else that I could do. So unfortunately, I had to lay people off, and I had to close down the business, and then I had to recover, and I did. I had a successful recovery. You would never know that I have Bell's palsy unless you saw me like at 11 o'clock at night, and I had a really stressful day, and I was really, really tired, and the muscles in my face would start, they would get tired. So then my face droops a little bit. But the rebuild really allowed me to say, what do I want Halyard to be now? And that, really came to focus. I was kind of dabbling in blockchain and NFTs. And when you're on the cutting edge of technology, you constantly get introduced to new technologies, whether that be, generation of energy or, all of those different things. But I kind of tracked over to artificial intelligence. And this was at the time when ChatGPT was about to launch, and I was got in that first month that they allowed people in, and it's been nonstop since then. And we've really structured the business around tools. So we now have multiple tools, multiple chatbots, voice bots, and we're actually right now in the middle of building out our voice bot out. So we've had a request from one of our clients that has asked us to build a voice bot that will call his clients to remind them to either set up a meeting or to attend a meeting. And so we're in the middle of building that. We also do autonomous workflows. We have a client who is a bookkeeper, and she sat me down and she said, I have 4 hours during the month that are the worst 4 hours, where I basically have to take information from one system and manually put it into another system. And I explained to her that we can make that connector. Utilizing AI, we are able to connect those tools together so that we can remove those 4 hours of work for her and make it easy and seamless. And so that's the autonomous workflow style that we do. We have a couple of different clients that are asking us to actually build software that helps them do their projects faster and easier. And so the ability to create software now, whereas before you'd have to hire 100 developers, you need a server, you need all of this infrastructure, can really be very easily built in, I'll tell you, we built that voice out in a day. I mean, that's how remarkable. One developer in a day, and we built exactly what the client needed. It's remarkable how fast we work now.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
For those of us that don't want to turn it into a deep, low-level technology show, be gentle. But tell us, do you have to know Python, or what does the average person, they always? And I'm going to give you a chance to talk about your business and get your promotion at the end. But tell us about the reality of a normal business person like me that uses ChatGPT. What are the extensible possibilities that I'm just missing every day that I should be doing and thinking about?
Everything is possible now. It's revolutionary. It's incredible how different it is. Just 2 or 3 years ago, right? So my master's of science is in computer science. So I don't want everybody to think that he's out there just kind of imagining to be able to do all this stuff. I understand. I don't write in Python though. So that's why I
C++?
have developed. Yes, yes. I'm that old. Yes. Well, I actually just interviewed a software engineer who works in C++, and I was amazed that he hadn't upgraded his skills to Python. But that was his choice. That's interesting.
Sorry, I
But
had to
the
say that.
no, no, no. I appreciate that. I am old, and I recognize that. So
No, you're
yes.
not. You're not.
But the ability to build now is, it allows. So yes, you do need to know Python. We use other tools in addition to that. I primarily, like myself, like to work in what's called N8N. So that's the letter N, the number eight, and then the letter N again. And it's a phenomenal tool. I don't know if you ever built a website, but we went from building websites that were HTML, where I was coding the HTML, to dynamic calls, which were hitting databases, to then now WYSIWYG, right, where you can drag and drop. And so N8N is very similar to WYSIWYG, where you're basically dragging and dropping. All you need is an LLM, a large language model, and then a knowledge base, and then connecting that to any API that's available, and you can build incredible software.
Interesting. So if someone has a project they need and they are thinking it's going to be 6 months and over the budget and things, the world has changed a bit. And there's a little bit of a
It
hope
depends
that
on the project.
yeah.
So we are in the middle of a very big project right now where there's a company that responds to grants from the government, and it takes them 7 people an entire week to complete that task and respond to each and individual grant. And so we are streamlining that process by understanding all of their knowledge prior to this. They're a 20-year-old company. And so we're pulling that data together, but it's dispergent. It's everywhere and for over 20 years. And so we're working to streamline that so that we can eventually build that software out for them. Now, that is a $250,000 project, but it's going to allow them to have people that would normally come off of their regular work to work on a grant to now continue just with their work, and now they'll be able to pull the grant responses almost automatically. It is going to take some human intervention, but about 80% of it is going to be generated through AI.
Wow, 80%. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Okay, well, I'm a simple leader that has spent a lot of time in call centers when I was just starting out in college. I worked through college at a call center. So when I saw your demo, I think it's time for the demo, because this is much simpler than throwing up an ERP or something like that with ChatGPT. This is for us. We can understand it, but the technology is pretty serious that you've put together behind the scenes. So we all deal with this sort of thing. So I'm going to just take a couple minutes and do it. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to have you play this demo that you've recorded.
So should I play it?
Yeah, play.
In this demo, I'll show how our AI voice bot helps law firms engage new leads through live phone calls, automating intake while keeping the conversation human and empathetic. Let's listen to a sample interaction.
Thanks for calling Lexor Legal Advisory. This is Ava. How can I help you today?
I was in a car accident. Can you help?
I'm sorry to hear that you've been in a car accident. Can you briefly describe the situation? For instance, when did the accident happen and were there any injuries? This will help me understand how we can assist you.
It happened 2 days ago in Jersey City. A truck ran a red light and hit me. I'm in the hospital now with 2 broken legs.
I'm really sorry to hear about your accident and your injuries. This sounds urgent, and I'll prioritize this for immediate attention. Let me schedule a priority consultation with our legal team right away. I'll check for the earliest available slot for you. Please hold on for a moment. We have availability for a priority consultation on Friday, April 11th. The earliest slots are from 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. And there's also a slot from 9:45 a.m. to 10 a.m. Would either of these times work for you?
Can I take the 9 a.m.?
Great choice. I'll go ahead and book your appointment for Friday, April 11th at 9 a.m. Could you please provide me with your full name and email address?
John Smith johnsmith@gmail.com.
Thank you, John. Just to confirm, could you please repeat your email address for accuracy?
johnsmith@gmail.com.
Booking a priority consultation for John Smith regarding a car accident. Your appointment is confirmed for Friday, April 11th at 9 a.m. You'll receive a confirmation message shortly. If you have any other questions or need further assistance, feel free to ask. Take care, and I hope you have a smooth recovery.
Thank you.
You're welcome, John. If you need anything else, don't hesitate to reach out. Have a great day.
There you go.
You know, this is a strange little thing. You know what my favorite part about that is at the end that she doesn't, after everything's all done, is there anything else I can do? I know they have to do that in case you missed something, and I've certainly said something, but oh, it's so hard to hear that every time I call someone in customer service. But that sounded so lifelike. Let me ask you what probably others are thinking. Since we're human and our first instinct is fear and anxiety, let's talk about that head on. I just see the combination of what you mentioned a minute ago, where you're going to send a bunch of calls out to people, and you're going to have a bot that applies for bank accounts. That's how I see this all happening.
Oh.
Tell us about AI and security and pretending and what's going to happen to those of us that don't really understand it. What is it? There's probably too much fear, as everything is usually causes, but just talk to us about that for a little bit.
Well, I understand where people are concerned that there is going to be a reduction of human needed employment. But I'm a big supporter of, I understand that there's going to have to be kind of a universal basic income, right? Especially for Americans, because, I'm not going to lie here, right? If you're a student that's listening to this right now who's going to go to college to study computer science, choose another major. It's done. Because there's the codex that's in the ChatGPT now. I personally am hiring incredible software engineers and developers that have been laid off from major corporations simply because the work that they were doing is now done by AI. But you see, that's the thing. I wouldn't have had this opportunity to hire a Meta or a Google developer. But now, all of those developers are going to trickle down to small businesses. It's going to be a big boon for small businesses, the availability of these incredibly brilliant people. And that's what's going to happen. I think that creativity is going to be the key, as it always has been for humankind, right? So a very creative person isn't going to see AI as a fearful thing. They're going to see it as an opportunity. Whether you're an artist designing, images for using AI, or whether you're a business like myself who's able to utilize engineers who have previously been laid off by major corporations. All of these things are going to happen. Now, it is not my hope that many people get laid off from AI, but I think that if you're aware and you're knowledgeable, then you will be the person who manages the AI as they do the process. There is no AI that is perfectly formed and can do everything. A human has to be in the middle of everything to make sure that it's running right. Even these voice bots that we have, we're listening to all the calls. We're making sure, I explain to people that right now, and understand that we're rebuilding all of our bots to improve them as we are always building and upgrading. But right now, it's 70% successful. And it's very interesting to listen to the voice calls and hear the frustration of when the bot gets it wrong, when the bot gets the email wrong, which is critically important, right? And the human interaction with that bot, people really respond to it as though it's human. And that's remarkable to me. So I understand the fear. The fear is around the corner, But I think that right now people need to, regardless of what you do, whether you're in counting, whether you're in law is law is a big problem because I fired my lawyers 2 years ago because I realized that ChatGPT has all the laws internally. So all I have to do is ask a question. If I need a contract written and I know what needs to be in that contract, the AI, the LLMs, are able to write a contract that is sufficient to be presented in court. It may not have been written by a $5,000 an hour lawyer, but at some point, law is what's on the books. And if the LLM knows what's on the books and you're the client, you know what you want and you can ask all the questions to resolve that. So have I saved myself $40,000 over the last 2 years by firing my lawyers? I have. Wow. Have I been able to write contracts that are legitimate and geared towards New Jersey, and it understands my business and it understands the relationships that I'm having with these contracts? Absolutely. So I understand the fear. The answer to the fear is to get on board, right? Progress always wins. Humans are always moving forward in everything. And so this is an opportunity now. You now have 4 years before A.G.I. comes in to understand how to utilize these tools. Because at the end of the day, they're not Terminator robots. They are tools to use in your business.
Talk about A.G.I. Some people don't know what A.G.I. is.
So that's artificial general intelligence. That's the point at which that AI not only has everything in its knowledge, but also understands the world. And so it can see the world, it understands the politics of the world, it understands human beings and how they operate, and it will eventually be able to do nearly everything. So once it has that consciousness of understanding, it's going to replace a lot of what we do as humans. But what we do as humans has been set up as a structure because things needed to get done. If things can be getting done by, an AI system, and we don't need that skill anymore as a human, well, we get to be more creative. You see, what's amazing is that I think that the answer to not working is creativity. And so imagine, 8 billion people who get their work done through A.G.I. in a fraction of the time that it used to take them. And now they're able to go out and play. They're able to spend more time with their family. They're able to create art or create stories or whatever it is that humans really should be doing every day, except that we need to get stuff done first. But if all that stuff can be done by a system, then we have a lot of free time and a lot of mobility.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a fork in the road there, too. We probably in the future either sit on the couch or we do creativity. And
I would hope that we don't sit on the couch.
Well, and those that do, they'll be self-selected out, and it'll, as humanity goes forward.
This is why universal basic income is critically important, right? Because there are some people that are not going to take advantage of the time, and they're not going to be creative, but they are still an individual within the society, and they can't fall off. Right? If nobody's hiring lawyers anymore, one of the top professions for humans, right? Lawyers, doctors, all these things. But if nobody's hiring lawyers anymore, then, those lawyers have the ability to go and learn a new skill. And I know that that's kind of mind-blowing for any lawyer who's saying, I've spent 30 years, I got my bar degree, and I'm a lawyer, and I want to go and, do all this stuff. Okay, but go ahead and use the tool. It works much better. Now, I'm sure we've all heard of the story of that attorney that went in before the judge, didn't do any research, or even the most recent government HIPAA, whatever it was, the HRH, and all of that, all of the notes and everything were all fake. AI generated fake information. But that's the human in the middle that made the mistake of not doing the research. AI can print anything. If you just print it out and show it to somebody and not review it, that's your mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, I've certainly spent 8 hours on a project and discovered that the entire thing was false. And I didn't present it to anyone, but I was a little frustrated. But that'll go away at some point with all this happening.
You also have to know how to talk to the AI, right? A lot of people are talking about prompt engineering, and I'm trained. I have certificates in prompt engineering. But because ChatGPT now has this project level, you have the ability to build a project, and this is how I work, and this is great for everybody to know this. So within my ChatGPT, I have a folder called Halyard Consulting. Within the knowledge base of that project is my business plan, my financials, my marketing strategy. It knows everything about my company. And so when I have a conversation on a phone call and I'm transcribing that and it's capturing all that information, I then open up a chat specific to that individual, right? Somebody asked me the other day what CRM I use, and I said, I use ChatGPT because it's able to take all the information. Somebody sends me an email, somebody calls me on the phone and I'm transcribing that, somebody sends me a text, all of that information goes under their personal account, their chat, within Halyard Consulting. So now the LLM understands my business and understands this person that I'm talking to. And it can answer any question and guide me in that relationship. It's remarkable.
And it could probably summarize all those people you've captured over time and put it in the same database you can export and do whatever you want with and analyze the way you want. Because it's
but
good.
I mean, why do that?
Why
I
would
mean, this
you?
morning, why this morning I went through my Halyard project folder, and there you were, Mark Cook. And guess what I did? Your transcription was in there from our previous conversation, and I explained where we had originally met. And now I was able to summarize and listen to everything that was written about our conversation and, the questions that you had for me and everything like that. It allows me to naturally review it at my own pace. Bringing that into a CRM, I mean, I understand, you should make sure that you contact this person 15 days later. I'm doing that already with the Google Calendar and everything. That's part of what I do. But the main crux of who you are, what we talked about, when we're going to talk next, why we should, partner together if that's the case, it's all in there and it retains all of that information.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, tell me about the fake person security thing. You're an expert in this, and we're all of us that aren't involved deeply in this but using it are worried about this. Why isn't Mark Cook going to show up looking like I look and talking like I talk with the information from my personal life that they seemingly have every corner, and open bank accounts and spend money in my name and rack up credit cards for me? What?
Well, I'm certainly not a security expert.
Yeah.
But I do think that there needs to be security on the company's end, right? When your credit card is stolen, you need to call the credit card company, or sometimes the credit card company calls you and says, there's a charge that's outside of what you would generally put on this card, and they ask you whether or not it's real. It's up to the corporations to now protect their customers from AI situations like that. I don't see it. I mean, look, there are malicious people that are going to do terrible things across the board, right? But I think that the benefit outweighs the cost of that. Now, is somebody going to open up, a bank account under my name and then, maybe it's just something that I'm not thinking about, and I understand because I'm on the creative end of building applications and certainly not malicious applications. I think that's pretty dangerous. But at the end of the day, I think those people will be easily caught because it's a skill that requires tying to certain applications, and those applications themselves are taking a forward step in protecting their clients and and people out there generally. I think it falls on the corporation. I really do.
Interesting. Okay, so if you're, a lot of the people that listen to this are leaders of their own work, leaders that lead others in organizations, mid-sized CEOs, and so what are the three things that someone who's pretty up to speed on this already, just using it for everything they can and figure out, what do we do next? What's the very next thing we do?
It's a great question. So if somebody already is using ChatGPT and they're using it in a productive way for their business, they should really do what I did, which is creating a project, upgrading to their ChatGPT to the $20 a month so that they have the project, and then they're able to really start discussing strategy with the GPT. Now, you do have to be careful because they have programmed these LLMs to be super positive about your ideas.
Yes.
And so you need to...
and increasingly so, it seems. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. My ChatGPT is thrilled with me. He thinks I'm the most brilliant person on the planet and hysterical, but I sometimes have to go back to him and say, is what I'm talking about here, is this permitted in the state of California? For example, perfect example. So I was writing up a contract yesterday for one of the software engineers that we're hiring. And he's located in California. And the way that we work is different than some other companies. And so we have kind of restrictions and we have certain, goals that are required. And I had to go back and, of course, it was telling me, oh, I'm thrilled about this. This is so great. You're doing a great job. Like, you're pulling in all this information, of course, making me feel amazing. But then I had to go back to it and say, I live in New Jersey, and so it's queued up on New Jersey law, but I said, this person lives in California. Can you tell me what some of the issues might be with California? And sure enough, it came back with 3 different things that we now needed to add into the contract to protect ourselves here in New Jersey for laws that are in California. Not major things, nothing that would ruin my business, but just things that would protect my business, right? So it's very important to know how you're talking to the LLM. And again, you're not printing things out and handing it over to the Senate or to the Congress without reviewing it. You have to know the boundaries in which the LLM is able to perform and make sure that you can ask it anything. You can ask it the same question twice and see if there's something that comes back. But that's, if there's 3 things, if I had to kind of narrow down the 3 things that a business person should be doing, is obviously investing in technology is critically important, right? Then understanding the boundaries in which you're working and understand that the LLMs aren't perfect. They do have a large amount of resources, but sometimes you need to say, hey, go out to the internet and find out if there's, like the big beautiful bill. Like, I didn't know that they're changing the trust capabilities, so there are trusts, your family would keep its money in a trust. They are reducing the amount allowed to not be taxed within a trust. I had no idea that was happening. So, you can analyze and ask questions of the GPT to see how it actually affects you, right? They're bringing the number, I think it was $40 million down to $6 million. So anything above $6 million in the trust actually gets taxed, which is not really great for people who have more than $6 million in a trust. But that's like a critical thing, right? That was something that Biden had wanted to do, and now Trump is going to do that as well. And so that's a factor that you have to be. And also, for the third thing, you need to, get a second opinion. Talk to a lawyer, show them the contract, and just make sure that you don't want to fully strap in for the LLM and, trust it universally and completely.
Yeah, that would last a very short time. Yeah, someday, maybe someday.
Well, that'll be A.G.I. That'll be when A.G.I.
Yeah. So you think it's 4-6 years out?
It's 4 years out. Yes.
Yeah. Interesting.
4 to 5 years out.
Yeah, it's interesting. I talked to someone who was involved with the industry of transport they were doing large vehicles that were autonomous, and I was surprised that they watch and even control every vehicle still. It's not just out there doing whatever it wants because of code running through its system. There are humans actually monitoring, controlling even the autonomous vehicles out there, which I had no idea about. That's interesting.
What's very interesting is that the AI is upgrading itself at this point. So it understands what it's missing and it's able to communicate what needs to be developed. And with DeepSeek, and DeepSeek is a Chinese LLM, we don't use it here, but because it was open sourced, that allowed a great jump from our side on the US AI to understand how DeepSeek worked, so then improvements could be made based on that. So it's a incredibly fast industry. It is moving so quickly. 5.0 is going to come out in July, and that's going to rock everybody's understanding of what's capable.
Wow, interesting. Okay, so before we finish up, I want to talk to you about this career journey. There's lots of things in life. There's more important things than money. Money is just a tool of freedom, and so. What is your definition of success? What is your life's work trying to do?
Pay off my mortgage. My car is already paid off. I don't have that much left on my mortgage. And then, COVID really allowed me to take a back seat for a little while. And that was incredibly healthy. So, yes, I work 24/7. But when I'm not working, I am really relaxing. I am sitting in front of the couch watching YouTube videos educating me on AI. So I understand I'm a nerd through and through. So, it's not like I'm shifting gears when I'm relaxing. When I'm relaxing, I'm watching AI videos. But I think that COVID really woke me up to we all understand that this is a relatively short time that we get to be human and get to be on this planet. And, that time is critically important. The reason why I had the Bell's palsy was because of the stress of everything that had happened from COVID. And so I understand the importance of meditation and yoga and focus and calming down after an important, exciting meeting like we've all had. We've all walked out of meetings and the big boss of the business goes ahead and signs on the dotted line, within an hour of me presenting. I mean, that's incredibly thrilling and incredibly exciting, right? But I have to kind of bring myself down. I have to, just focus myself. And it's so critically important because the unhealthy work style of the corporations, I used to work, when I was working in companies, it was a 9-to-5 job, but, we kind of expect you here before 9, and we kind of expect you to stay after 5, and maybe you should be available to us on the weekends. Well, all that stress and sitting there for 8 hours every single day, 5 days a week, 2 days of weekends, it just it didn't suit the way that I worked. Now, I think I work harder, better, but more relaxed. I don't take on time-pressured projects. If somebody says to me, I need this in a month, I go, well, let me talk to my developers. Let's see if we can get it in a month. But if we can't get it in a month, we're not going to build this project for you. So it is freeing to be able to say no when a client is impossible, and there are impossible clients to work with. And so I'm thankful that I'm in a position where I can say no and really be able to work with clients that I really enjoy.
Yeah, that is a great fortunate blessing that you have. Okay, so I want to finish. I want to ask you, there's people out there somewhere in their career. They could be at a crossroads as a CEO, wanting a new era. They could be reassigned. They could be getting that role for the first time. But there's also the CEO of their own work that's just starting out a career, and they don't even know they're the CEO of their own work or should be a leader in spite of what their business or no business card says. And if you're giving advice specifically for this week, 3 actionable to-dos this week, a little different way of asking the same question, but for your career, for the long run, 3 things this week, what do you do?
Great question. 1, stay out of Washington, D.C. this weekend. No.
Yes.
It depends on where you are in your career. I think that, let's see, 3 important things to accomplish this week is to understand that there are ways of working with people that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to pay them outright immediately. I think that percentage of profit shared profit is a much more powerful tool than an annual salary. If I say to an engineer, we're going to build a tool that we're going to then sell 1,000 copies of on a subscription level that is going to net you, $100 every single time somebody subscribes, and now we're at 1,000 subscriptions, that's a lot better than if you had a salary, right? And you're able to do a lot more in that relationship because that software engineer feels like a part of the company. Their success, our success is their success. And so for a lot of startup companies, they don't realize, they're like, I got to hire this person, I've got to hire that person, I got to go to the bank, I got to mortgage my house, I got to, there's other ways of working things. If you build a good relationship with somebody and you both enjoy working on a project, Steve Jobs wasn't getting a paycheck in his garage when he was building Apple, right? Neither was Wozniak, right? Yeah. So the creativity, if you're working with the right people who believe in the project, money is secondary. So the success of the project is the primary thing. So number 1, know who you're working with. I have 2 salespeople. One salesperson is very focused on getting more sales. The other sales guy is very focused on getting his check every 2 weeks. That doesn't really work for me. And so I understand that if that second person doesn't produce as well or better than the first salesperson, I'm probably going to terminate that sales. Now, I'm not terminating if he's watching this video. I'm not terminating you. But I think it's a different perspective of why are you working for this company? Why do you want to work on this project? And it doesn't matter if you're a carpet cleaning business or whether you're a CEO of a Fortune 500, right? If you're a CEO of a Fortune 500, there are people who absolutely want to work for you, not just for the salary. And if you're a carpet cleaning business, then there is some student out there who knows that college isn't right for him and wants to have an actual skill. Hire that guy. Hire that person. I think it's incredibly important to know who you're working with and that everybody is on board. And I understand that gets harder the bigger your company grows. I know that, once you hit 50 people in your company, it's a different thing. Yeah. I've been in companies that have, I came in as the 27th person, and by the 50th person, I saw that it was a completely different organization. I don't necessarily want to build that kind of a company. I believe, as Sam Altman believes, that in 2026, one individual will build $1 billion business. Is that my business? I'm not sure. But somebody is going to be able to pull all of these tools together, have the right skills, and build a company that is going to take the world by storm in their bedroom overnight. And it's crazy. Just going to be remarkable. It's incredible. The tools that are out there now is absolutely incredible. What other advice can I give? Make sure your accountant is legit. I think that's a really big one, right? Make sure, look, as an entrepreneur and somebody who works in technology, accounting is not my first love. And looking at those numbers every single month is not easy, but you have to. You have to make sure that the people that are handling your money are respecting the money that's coming in and not trying to profit off of it themselves.
Good advice. Jonathan Goodman from New Jersey, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us to get leaders unstuck and thriving with their teams. You've heard a little bit about the power of bold encounters and leadership. Watch on. Go to full episodes with the iconic expert interviews at markspencercook.com/podcast. And please subscribe. My site takes you directly to YouTube video and podcast versions. Please make comments, share this with your friends. Also, reach out to us to just brainstorm your priorities, challenges, events, or how Bold Encounters might help. Visit windfallpartners.com, click the Let's Talk button without obligation, and reach out. I look forward to speaking. Thank you for joining us. Now, let's lead with Bold Encounters today.